79 reads in part, "Here you are to indulge in matters of speculation, that freedom of inquiry that ever dispels the clouds of falsehood by the radiant sunshine of truth." In their clandestine meetings, the members seriously debated a host of questions, such as whether a wise state hath any interest nearer at heart than the education of the youth. The establishment soon afterward of chapters at Yale and Harvard ensured that Phi Beta Kappa would survive the arrival of General Cornwallis's troops at Williamsburg. As many chapters were established, it was determined that they would need a sign so that they could identify themselves to unknown members of their brotherhood. And so, when members met, they greeted each other by drawing the backs of their index and middle fingers of the right hand across the lips from left to right, thus affirming that their lips were sealed. They followed this sign with a secret handshake, the Phi Beta Kappa grip. Each member grasps with the little and ring fingers and the thumb of the right hand the first two fingers of the other member's right hand. When the hands come together with the fingers spread by twos, thus enabling them to straddle each other before mutually closing on the first two fingers, this hand clasp will be found to be an amazingly facile and fraternal way to shake a Phi Beta Kappa hand. A little over a century later, and more than 25 branches of the society were in existence, the Columbia College chapter, New York Delta, was established in 1869. And it was felt that a national structure was needed to bring together the scattered chapters into some uniformity. In 1883, the organization known as the United Chapters of Phi Beta Kappa was founded, and in 1875, Phi Beta Kappa enlarged its membership to include women. Phi Beta Kappa continues to take great pride in its origins, even though it is no longer secret. It retains a number of the symbols that were devised for it at the time when the American public was coming into being. The present Phi Beta Kappa key, and you can see that image on the cover of your program, reproduces the design originated by the young founders of the society at William and Mary. On the front of the key, it bears the Greek letters Phi Beta Kappa, the initials of the words Philosophia BU Kubernetes, meaning love of learning is the guide of life. The three stars on the upper left-hand corner symbolize the aims of the society: friendship, morality, and literature. A pointing hand in the lower right-hand corner stands for aspiration. The society's symbols and purposes are now well known across the land. These purposes were eloquently summarized in the following statement by one of the society's most eminent members, Charles Evans Hughes, the late Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. The particular interest of Phi Beta Kappa is in liberal education. Intensive critical study of education aims and methods has found nothing to take its place. It means the development by careful training of the capacity to appreciate what has been done and thought, and the ability to make worthwhile appraisals of achievements, doctrines, theories, and proposals. It is liberal because it emancipates. It signifies freedom from the tyranny of ignorance and, from what is worse, the dominion of folly. Phi Beta Kappa holds aloft the banner of scholarship, and to the students who have turned aside from easier paths and by their talent and fidelity have proved themselves worthy, it gives the fitting recognition of a special distinction. Selection to Phi Beta Kappa is an honour that goes to no more than 10% of each seniors class. The seniors to be initiated today are those that our chapter's faculty members consider the academic stars of the class of 2016. Excuse me. Thank you so much. So our academic stars of the class of 2016 were not chosen mechanically by grades alone, but by a close evaluation of both intellectual ambition and academic achievement, as well as faculty recommendations. Before us are scholars in the making who represent a wide variety of majors. They have taken the most rigorous courses available here at Columbia, often excelling in graduate level coursework, and they have conducted independent research in the lab, in the field, and in the library. We can see then that these students are extraordinarily talented, industrious and hardworking, and they have an embarrassment of intellectual and creative riches. But as academically accomplished as these students are, what was also clear to the Faculty Selection Committee is that they are also good and generous human beings. And I know that the parents in the audience are as proud of this as anything else their children have achieved. Dozens of Columbians, faculty members and alumni have won the Nobel Prize. Of that group, 9 were graduates of Columbia College, and all 9 were elected into Phi Beta Kappa as students. It is this very impressive group that you are joining today, and I extend to you and your families my warmest congratulations. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce James Valentini, Dean of Columbia College.
Thank you, Hazel. I think we're all glad this is no longer a secret society. A secret honorary society seems like an oxymoron in some way. If we're going to honor you, we'd like to do it in public, and we are doing it in public. Congratulations to you all. I said this morning that the class of 2016 was the best class ever. You must be the best of the best, and therefore you should feel very proud of yourselves. And to your families, I say congratulations as well. I am sure this recognition is as meaningful to you as it is to your sons and daughters who are here today receiving that. I do remember when my oldest son, the only one of my sons who so far finished college, was elected to Phi Beta Kappa. I considered it a bigger deal than anything I had ever received myself. And so I think you probably feel the same way. This is an important day for us. Class day and recognition of you here. As Hazel already said, you are the superstars of the stars, and we are delighted to be able to bring you all together here and to induct you into this important chapter of a very important society. It's now my pleasure and my honor to introduce the president of our Columbia Phi Beta Kappa chapter, Sunil Gulati, who is a very distinguished instructor in our economics department, who has taught many generations of students. I was at an event, a college alumni event last fall. I was talking to 4 alumni whose graduation years spanned more than 2 decades. And the only thing they had in common, other than that they graduated from this college, was that they had been taught by Sunil Gulati. And they used the name Gulati with a considerable reverence, which is appropriate for his status here. He's also a dear friend of mine and someone who I value greatly for his contribution to the life of our institution. I would like to call Sunil to the podium.
Thank you, Dean. The part that Hazel did earlier, going through the history of the organization and tell you about the handshake, she'd asked me to do, and I decided that I couldn't match her English accent, so I decided to do it differently. The handshake, just for all the new inductees, the handshake is illegal under the recent legislation in North Carolina, so don't use it there. Just as a warning to all of you. Quick question, how many of the inductees have I had in class and principals? Quite a few. Okay. The fact that you made it here and I didn't pull your average down, that's a good sign for you. So that's a good thing. Congratulations to all of you. Dean has already mentioned you are the best of the best. But I think you've been a little bit shortchanged in a couple of ways, both in math and in language. Most of you don't know any numbers other than 4 and 4.33. That's a problem. None of you know the letter or the alphabet starting at the letter B. And the two people that are missing, we've got 2 seats that are empty. I'm told by Hazel they have been excluded from the ceremony because they almost got an A- this semester, which is really shocking, Hazel. Anyway. That they almost got a B-, not that she threw them out. That was expected. I get the fun thing today. I get to talk a little bit about some of our inductees, and I get to introduce our guest speaker. And I will keep it relatively brief on the latter because Professor Foner is much more interesting to listen to than I am. But let me read you some of the comments. And Hazel mentioned it. By the way, she gets a tremendous amount of credit. She makes this chapter work in all parts of it. So another hand for Hazel, please. When the dean is not here, I also say she makes the dean's office work, but I'm not going to say that with the dean sitting here. It is okay. He agrees with that. We actually do sit and look at grades, but so much of the discussion is then about other things, about the courses taken, about letters, about recommendations from faculty members. So I want to read you some of those recommendations that we got the pleasure of reading. And I've edited out all the parts and the adjectives of words that are in the sciences because I didn't understand what the words meant, so I had to get rid of those. But I'll give you some of the rest, which are the smaller words. Different students and different faculty members. An astonishingly gifted, intelligent student, probably the best undergraduate that I've ever had in my lab. Since I've taken 3 to 5 undergrads each year for 32 years I've been at Columbia, this is a pretty select group. An exceptional student. She is talented and articulate, ambitious but humble. Has taken full advantage of her time at Columbia to truly immerse herself in learning. She's constantly challenging herself to acquire new skills and knowledge and do the best work she possibly can. It is rewarding to teach such a student, so dedicated to making the most of all that is offered at Columbia. Another student, she's fat. What happened to the guys in this thing? she's slackers all here. She's fabulous, one of the rare ones who seems to manage to get everything done and done well while still enjoying life. She's a super smart and curious student, the kind who asks really fun and interesting questions. Another student demonstrates exceptional sophistication and commitment to her work. Next, a brilliant, eloquent, and socially responsible student. He is socially and politically very engaged and active. His participation in class discussions is always to the point. He is funny and likable. Intellectual maturity and abilities are stronger than most of Columbia's graduate students. That says something about the grad school dean. An exceptionally gifted student. He is theoretically and philosophically astute and has a great literary sensibility. Here's a great case of someone pushing themselves out of their comfort zone and succeeding. Perhaps the best natural literary critic and scholar I've had the honor of teaching at Columbia. Has a rare gift for conceptual thought, makes for a formidable literary scholar in training, has modesty, good humor, compelling appetite for work. Driven, serious, brilliant, and open-minded intellect. In all my years of teaching, both composition and creative writing, she stands out as one of the most intellectually hungry students I've had the pleasure of getting to know. She is meticulous and a sensitive reader and comes to class ready to argue for her interpretation of a text, but allows herself the flexibility of changing her mind when I tell her to, no, changing her mind, and revising her ideas based on discussions and class engagement and with her colleagues. One of the best students I've had in 20 years here. Not only does he have a first-rate mind, but he's a genuine intellectual, deeply engaged in historical and political questions. The best I've ever had. Multiple Nobel Prize winners are a certainty. Prizes are a certainty. The only question is when and what fields. I made up that last one, okay? That was my wife writing about my son. It's okay. As you can see, some pretty extraordinary students that we've had here, and as both my colleagues have mentioned, the best of the best. We are extraordinarily proud of you for everything you've done here, and in many ways, more importantly, everything we know you will do. Hazel mentioned what some have gone on to do. A Nobel Prize is not guaranteed, but certainly increases the likelihood that you've been here and studied and done as well as you have. So I wish you great congratulations. And with that, I get to introduce Professor Foner. I can't think of many people on campus that all of you out there would enjoy hearing more than Professor Foner. At your last event at Columbia, you get to hear the president tomorrow. That's almost an easy one. He's retiring this year. Many of you have had classes with him. He is a star in every possible way. I don't really need these notes to tell you what he's done. He's written on the Civil War, on Reconstruction, one of the preeminent historians in the country, on those and many other topics. He's an extraordinary teacher. I went and sat in on one of his classes recently, even though the dean made it sound like I've been here for many, many decades. I didn't take any classes with Professor Foner, but he's adored on campus. He's adored in the field. But I thought it'd be important to do exactly what we've done for the students and read you some comments from students about Professor Foner, the DeWitt Clinton Professor of History at Columbia and author of many books. Eric Foner may be the most impressive lecturer in the historical profession in the world. He's certainly the best I've had, which means Columbia is the world, I believe. There's nothing new to say, and I didn't make these up, these are true. There's nothing new to say about Foner. He's brilliant and everyone knows it. Next, believe the hype. How can you have a better comment than that said of you? Believe the hype. Believe the hype. Foner really is an amazing historian, an engaging lecturer, and one of the best writers in the academic world today. He is also funny as hell, armed with self-deprecating humor. We'll be looking for some of that in a few minutes. I could not possibly do justice to how good this class is in writing. There is no better lecturer at Columbia or anywhere, and Foner is the leading scholar in his field. And the best of all, in my perspective, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm in love with a 69-year-old man. Now, as a side note, that was written 4 years ago. He's 73 now, so I'm not ashamed to admit it. I'm in love with a 69-year-old man. Okay, I'm a little ashamed. I'm only 21. She's 25 now, so... Or he's 25 now, I don't know. I somehow managed to convince him I was worthy of being in his seminar on slavery and emancipation. Needless to say, I was thrilled that I would get to bask in his glory at such close range, no less. We're leaving that issue in the first statement separate, apart from each other. Ladies and gentlemen, inductees, Professor Eric Foner.